Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today we're going to talk about the drama triangle and what the hell that means. So without further ado, let's hop right in. Hey leaders, I'm your coach Adam. Here to have an honest talk about leadership, the obstacles you might face, and how to refine your leadership skills to help you become the leader I know you are. So let's grab a drink, sit back, relax, and have a chat. The other day, I was working with a girl, and the problem that we were trying to solve was, what should she do about her cousin? See, her cousin had been causing a lot of trouble, a lot of grief, a lot of anxiety for my client. They were stressed out. In talking with my client, it became obvious that this trouble had been there for quite some time. This trouble was being caused by her cousin getting herself into situations she really shouldn't be getting herself into, and then being upset when they turn sour. To which, of course, her cousin goes crying to my client. My client feels like they need to bail or help them out. But when they do, and they try to change things, this cousin becomes angry and aggressive and begins to attack my client, which makes her feel like absolute crap. It makes her feel like shit. And I remember looking at her and saying, it sounds like you're caught up in the drama triangle, and we need to get you out of that. The drama triangle is a concept I love to teach because all drama happens within the drama triangle. As long as you are caught within the triangle, you will never be free of drama. Just like my client was. What the drama triangle is it states that there are 3 roles within this triangle. There is victim, there's abuser, and then there's rescuer. These are the 3 roles that you're going to see within this triangle. What's going to happen, and you will notice this, is that people are going to either self-assign themselves these roles, or they're going to assign others to these roles. For example, with my client and her cousin, the cousin was assigning herself the victim role. She was getting herself into trouble, signing herself the victim role, and then asking my client for help. Help me, save me, save me, save me. What my client failed to understand was she was then taking on the rescuer role. She was trying to help out the victim, trying to save the victim. The problem being, though, is that the victim didn't really want to be saved. And the roles switched. See, within the drama triangle, roles are not clear-cut and they're not stagnant. This is a very dynamic triangle. And roles are going to switch all the time. In this case, what was happening was that the cousin was the victim. And the incident that happened with a couple of men, they were the abusers. And my client was the rescuer, the savior. When my client tried to save this cousin, what ended up happening was the cousin became angry and upset. And she became the abuser and started attacking my client, started manipulating my client. My client changed roles from the rescuer to the victim. Huzzah! And the really messed up thing about this is the guys that she was dealing with that quote unquote had abused the cousin became the saviors, and the cousin went back to these gentlemen. That is the sticky situation with this triangle, is as long as you participate, as long as you take one of these roles, you will never get out of this triangle. The triangle is self-perpetuating, with people changing roles constantly. I see this at work, in the office. I see this with other leaders, and I see this with management and CEOs. They get trapped in the drama triangle, and it's so easy to get trapped in this triangle. It's so easy. Because a lot of leaders, a lot of managers have a fix-it attitude. I want to fix things. I want things to go smoothly. I want things to be done and over with. So if there's a problem, they're going to fix it. The problem being is that mentality and the position you're in will always encourage you to take on the rescuer role. Let me repeat this, because this is important. You being a manager, just by simply taking on this position, and you wanting to fix things, leaves you susceptible to taking on the role of rescuer, to take on one of the roles within the drama triangle. And if you are not careful, you will be drawn into the triangle, and the drama will continue to self-perpetuate. An example of this, there's a young lady, she was a new manager. She had somebody in the office that was bawling their eyes out. They were claiming that another worker, we'll call her worker A, was bullying and harassing her, that this worker was acting inappropriate, and that this worker should have known better. Well, is that true? What's actually going on? We can't make judgments based on one story. We need to figure out the whole picture before we can move forward. But this manager didn't do that. So she heard one side of the story. That person was the victim. She now takes on the rescuer role of trying to solve and help the victim, and have the victim come to an amicable agreement so that they continue to work at this location. Little did this manager know that what was actually happening was a case of bullying and harassment against employee A. What was actually happening is the woman that had come into the manager's office was the abuser, and she was portraying herself as the victim to encourage management to take on the rescuer role, so then management will save the quote-unquote victim and punish the abuser, which would be employee A. The irony of this is that if this manager had gone ahead with their original plan, it would have been horrific, because what would have actually happened is the manager in this rescuer role would have punished employee A. But what has actually happened is employee A has now become the victim. The employer will become the abuser, and then the original employee who made the complaint will become the savior and talk about how awful management is, which will turn management into the victim. And this now savior will turn into the abuser. And it just gets really messy and sticky. The longer this triangle gets perpetuated, the worse it becomes, the more sticky it becomes, to the point that there is no such thing as heroes. There's no such thing as good guys or bad guys. There's just the triangle. There's just the triangle. How do we stop the drama triangle? The first thing you need to do is remember, don't take a role. Do not jump to punish one of your team members. Don't do it, because immediately you'll be taking on a role of abuser in a situation. Do not immediately jump to fixing or solving the situation. Why? Because that's encouraging you to take the role of savior in this situation. These are the two roles that you're most likely going to receive or get. The first thing to do if somebody comes to you with a complaint, a concern, anything, is to become curious about this. Ask more questions. Get more information. Don't just take these things at face value. Figure out what's actually going on. Once you've figured out what's going on, the next question is, what would they like to do about it? We're not going to tell them what's going to happen. We are going to ask them what should happen. Because again, if we start telling these people what's going to happen, if we start trying to fix the situation, we're encouraging us to take on the savior role, which could turn into the abuser role, which could turn into staff turnover because we've created a toxic work environment. We don't want that. So the first step is start asking questions. The next step is to figure out, how do they want to come to an agreement on this? How do they want to fix this problem? Whatever that might be. Another thing to be aware of as a leader is that individuals who love the drama triangle, who really feed into the roles, will have a pattern of perpetuating the drama triangle. When you talk with these individuals, you will hear about how their personal life is always in crisis, how somebody is always abusing them, how somebody is always helping them out, and how they are the victim. You will also notice within the workplace, this individual will continue to perpetuate the drama triangle pattern. You will notice that this individual will be frequently a part of the drama. They will take on the abuser role, or the victim role, or the rescuer role. It will also be very challenging to get them to move out of the role because they feel comfort in this triangle. You will notice that they struggle with moving out of the victim mindset, moving out of the savior, and moving out of the abuser. Because to them, this is normal. This is their normal. And we need to be aware of these individuals that are stuck within this pattern. If we see somebody that is stuck in this pattern, we have a couple of different options that we can do to help them move forward. We either can help recommend that they go seek therapy or counseling. We could do coaching with them to help them out. Or we can help them transition out of our organization. That being said, we as leaders always have a duty to our team to try to help them move on to the next level, to help them move past the drama triangle, however that might look. I remember working at a healthcare center, and I had a nurse come up to me, and she was complaining about one of the new hires, that they weren't on their game, that they weren't friendly, that this individual wasn't pulling their weight. And on the surface, this sounded like a difficult employee that needed to be told what to do or to help them move on. That's what the conversation sounded like. What was actually happening was the drama triangle was in full swing and I was not even aware of it. This new hire was the victim. What was happening is the woman that had originally come to me, she was essentially setting up the new employee to fail off the get-go. She was not doing her due diligence and helping them learn proper procedures. She was intentionally excluding that employee from lunch events and get-togethers. And she was bad-mouthing this employee to other employees. Well, what was happening? She was the abuser and the new employee was the victim. And when they came to me, or I should say when the abuser came to me, she painted a picture of her being the victim. Because what had happened was this new employee that was training had eventually lashed out at her abusers, which is normal. But what happened? The victim then became the abuser, and the abuser then became the victim, and then the victim, the new victim in this role, she came to see me and invited me to take on the savior role, which is to punish this new employee. The problem being is that if I do that, what will happen is I will become the abuser and the new employee will become the victim. And then this new employee will look for somebody else to take on the savior role. Welcome to the drama triangle, all hidden, and it was super fun. Instead of jumping in, I listened, I heard what was going on, and then I had followed up with the new hire and heard what was going on with them. Seeing as I greatly suspected that the drama triangle was in full motion, but, there wasn't a lot of concrete evidence on either side, what I had done was I intentionally moved the new trainee to a different part of the health center, and I assigned them a new trainer, and I gave this new trainer a bunch of information, like, hey, this is what's going on. I want you to make sure that this new hire is treated with respect and that this person doesn't come in contact with them. And we're just going to see how things go. Lo and behold, what ended up happening was this new hire turned out to be one of the most amazing people that we had. They were just being pushed down upon by an abusive individual. And from that day forward, we started moving in a direction to start helping the organization begin to come to a better place in its workplace culture. But that's the thing. You have to be aware that this triangle exists. It happens all the time. I've seen it time and time again. And you will always be requested to take on the rescuer role, your management, your leadership. You will be asked to take on the leadership rescuer role. Or sometimes you'll be asked to take on the abuser role right out of the gate. You'll be asked to punish somebody, to come down hard on them. They are inviting you to take on the abuser role. Do not take on these roles. Be conscientious. Stop. Start asking questions. Do not just jump in there to try to fix things. Learn more about what's going on and have the parties suggest what they would like to do moving forward. As a leader, if you are coming up with all the suggestions, all the ideas, you messed up. You shouldn't be. Your team is there for a reason. You hired them because they are smart, they are talented, and they know what they should be doing and what they need to succeed. Use that. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at amelnyk, MELNYK, at seedingthelead.com, and I'd be more than happy to answer it on this podcast. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, give it a like, and share it with a friend. And if you're ready to take the next leap and improve your leadership skills, head over to www.seedingthelead.com and book your free coaching session today.